Hey, Team Fuel, welcome back. I wanted to talk to you this week about unhelpful thinking. So, maybe things that put maybe scary thoughts that come up in your head that seem to kind of keep reoccurring. And it's just maybe a fear you have of something that might happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And we're not quite sure why this thought keeps coming up, and yet it keeps just kind of popping up in your head, and it's distracting, and it may even be keeping you from hanging out with friends. So I'm going to give kind of an example. Let's say I am scared I'm going to get eaten by a monster. Well, let's kind of think. I'm going to give you some tools on how to think through those kind of thoughts that get stuck in our head, and I don't want to believe it and I don't want to think about it, and yet for some reason it keeps kind of popping up and it's not helping me at all. So here's some, and I'm sure you can probably come up with your own maybe thoughts of maybe some fears or anxiety that you have over just a reoccurring thought you can't get rid of. I know I have students in elementary school that come to me all the time with things that are just bothering them, and it gets to the point where it keeps them up at night, or maybe they changes their appetite. Maybe they stop eating as much because their stomach's kind of feeling yucky, or maybe it even keeps them from spending the night at someone's house because of a fear of something that might happen. So here's an example. So like with monsters, let's think about this. What evidence do you have for your thought? So if you have to pause because you're using your own example, but for me, do I have evidence of monsters? Well, I've seen them in storybooks. I've seen them in movies like Monsters Inc. I can't say I've ever really seen a monster in my life, and yet for some reason my brain keeps telling me, what if a monster comes? So I don't have a lot of evidence for monsters existing. How about with the things that kind of worry you? Can you pause and think of evidence or something that has shown you that this is a real thing, and then come back? Okay, the second one is, what evidence do you have against the thought? Well, I can't say that I've ever really seen monsters, and so I guess my evidence is I've never really seen them. It's just kind of an idea, and I know what they look like in my head, but I've never actually seen them with my eyes. So think about with something that might be bothering you or popping up in your head. What evidence do you have that would be proof that it doesn't exist or it may not happen? Go ahead and pause and come back. All right, the third one is, what would you tell a friend to help them if they were having that thought? So let's say that you're trying to help a friend who's having that same fear, but let's pretend it's their fear only, and you're trying to help them as a friend to say, you don't need to worry about that. So something I would tell my friend is, hey, have you ever actually really seen a monster? And if they're like, well, I thought I saw one under my bed or something, you could say, well, I don't know. I know my brain, when I'm really trying to be creative, I can come up with scary stuff in my head, but then I find out maybe it's really just kind of a stuffy I had on the floor, or I see my shoes laying there and I thought it was something else all night. So think of something that a friend would tell you about that, and then come back. Number 4. Think of your calmest, most rational, and supportive friend or family member. This could be someone you trust a lot, maybe an aunt and uncle, mom or dad, maybe grandma and grandpa. How would he or she react to this thought? So, and it may be someone that's not even around you anymore. Maybe they've passed on, but you can think of, man, it really did calm me down to talk to that person. Could I imagine a conversation with that person? And what they would tell me to think about it. And I can hear my grandma telling me, oh, that's kind of silly. Monsters aren't real. I can promise you I've lived 97 years, never seen a monster. I've never met anyone who's seen a monster. I think you're pretty safe from monsters. What do you think your relative that you would trust would say to you about your thoughts? Pause and come back. Okay, next one. Are you worrying about an outcome that you can't control? So maybe this is a possible fear that might happen, and sometimes we don't like those thoughts. And sometimes it's because it's something we can't control. And I know if you look at the last couple of lessons that I've done on here, we talk about things we can and can't control and how to handle those. If it is something out of your control, find the people that can help you control it and get them in the picture, make a plan. Otherwise, make sure that you tell yourself, this isn't in my control anyway. Maybe I don't need to spend this much time worrying about it when I can't control it. But if it's something that is really bothering you, find someone to help you get through it, okay? Number 6, what does the thought do for you? How does it make you feel? Is it helpful in any way, or is it just distressing? So this is where I would come back to like my monsters, and if I'm scared of monsters. What is this thought doing for me? Not really doing anything good for me, right? I wouldn't say it's doing anything for me. How does it make me feel? Ugh, I hate thinking about monsters. I don't like thinking that they might be real. Is it helpful in any way, or is it distressing? Well, it's not helpful because it makes me think of that rather than enjoying my day or time with my friends. So yeah, I don't like it, and so I want to start focusing on some other things. Maybe every time a monster comes up in my head, I think of a song I really like, or go back to thinking of having that conversation with my grandma. Have something that when I think of this, I'm going to think of this good thing. And start trying to notice the things around you and the positive stuff around you. Number 7, what good things would you gain if you gave up the thought? How would your life be different if you didn't believe the thought? Well, if I totally believe in monsters, maybe I don't want to go to my friend's house who they turn off the lights at night to spend the night because I'm thinking, I don't feel safe because I think a monster might come up. Well, my life would change if I could maybe help get rid of that thought. Because I'd be more willing to go hang out with a friend or maybe be in the dark. Maybe you're so scared of the dark that you don't even like going to the movie theater, which I know we can't do right now, but when we get back out of COVID life. So think of the things that thought is keeping you from enjoying and asking yourself, is it really worth it to spend this much time worrying about something like that? And finally, if the casual thought was true, what is the worst outcome? Is it as bad as you think? Well, the worst outcome would be, I don't know, maybe monsters would be real, but like I said, we don't have evidence of that. But let's say I did find one and he was super friendly and super nice. Maybe I had a whole idea in my head that wasn't even true. So think about, if this does happen, do you have a plan? Do you have people around you, supports that encourage you and help you think through things when they get kind of hard or scary? And so that's what I have for this week. I hope that was helpful, because I know those anxious thoughts, they make us feel yucky inside. They make our heart beat fast. They make our brain kind of come up with even worse ideas that follow it. It makes our tummies feel kind of, like it's in knots. It just doesn't make us feel good. And I think it's worth taking the time to think through. And I would suggest doing this with a parent or someone you trust to help you through this. Anyway, I enjoyed my time with you this week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining me.